I think when you talk about the Robin Hood tax and what it means, it sort of goes to the whole argument that something we need to be doing better as progressives is we cannot let the Republican Party get away with this whole ideal of how they've done, how they've explained deficit spending and how they've said the deficit is the problem and not spending is the problem. But we all know that deficits don't cause recessions, especially when our money is basically fiat. It's not backed by gold. It's not backed by silver. It's a fiated currency. And that's more so science than we want to get into. But that fiated currency means that, we could just print money. And it's backed by the good and faith and credit and the power of the American economy. And I think, when Republicans continue to make this argument about deficit spending and why that's horrible and why we should not invest in our greatest resources, we should not invest in our people, we should not invest in the so-called Robin Hoods of our society. I think this tax speaks volumes to that movement and what that means and what we need to do to make sure that we rebuild this country, both infrastructure and education-wise, but, preserving the middle class and working class.
Absolutely. I think deficits have become a cover. They can give more money to their corporate backers, the people who are lining their campaign coffers. This is something that they could say, this is the real problem, when, as you said, clearly it's not. We need to put people back to work, and we need to build a state-of-the-art country that works, that has roads and bridges and an education system.
And the sad part is, and I got to tell you here, and I think you get this, Liz, is that the sad part is Republicans every time they're in office, spending is never a problem. They never have questions about revenue when they're spending on two wars. They never have questions of revenue when they're spending on a prescription drug bill. When we're talking about corporate giveaways to Halliburton and tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires that just weren't paid for. But all of a sudden, when it comes to the middle class and the working class, now this is a big deal. And that's why we'll never hear about the Robin Hood tax by Republicans.
Right, when it was the noted progressive Dick Cheney who said deficits don't matter.
Exactly. I think that's exactly right. And so what can people do to sort of engage in this movement and make sure that their member of Congress supports the Robin Hood tax and what it means for the people?
Well, there's a couple different things you can do. First, I'd encourage everybody to go to robinhoodtax.org. And you can find a ton of information about the movement and figure out a way to hook up. There are direct actions and demonstrations going on all the time, all over the country that you can get involved in. And also, call your congressman and call your senator and say, this is important. This needs to happen. A recent poll came out in December that showed about over 60% of Americans think that we should tax Wall Street versus cutting the things that we need. The care for our seniors and education. It's an idea that people understand in the country. We have to make the people in Washington understand now.
I think you're completely right. We have to make the people in Washington understand what is happening in our society, what's happening all across the country, what's happening in the heartland, or quote unquote Republican speak, Main Street America, and what this tax will do to sort of fill that gap and fill that void for millions of Americans.